Aloha, friends and family. I was on fire last night when it was time to go to bed. And I actually considered getting up out of bed and going and getting in my car and making this video. But I had a 15-hour day yesterday and I needed to get to sleep. But my mind and my soul and my spirit sure was working overtime. As the days tick by and decisions are going to have to be made. I mean, at some point, you either got to trust that you're not going to be targeted and fined and have your credit and everything else ruined, again, for doing nothing more than speaking your mind. And every time I talk about this or think about this, that damn Chinese guy that made a joke in a conversation about the police over there in China. I think it was over them taking people's, I don't know, bicycles or motorcycles, something. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but I know exactly what happened. The dude ends up sitting in some Orwellian looking metal chair that's got bars and chains and locks and then the smug piece of shit NPC soulless bastard cops. And I'm not meaning that for every cop in the world, but definitely these, and definitely all the ones that fit the fucking category. If the shoe fits, wear it, and the bastards are sitting there asking him. And the dude was drunk when he did it. So in other words, the guy got buzzed, made a statement in a conversation that basically just was a nice way of saying fuck the police. I mean, he wasn't even mean or vulgar about it or used bad language or anything. He just stated his mind. Again, this comes back to, we're now living in a world where seemingly these freaks think they can punish everybody for speaking their mind. These bastards that have done nothing but speak their mind continually, control every aspect. I'm not going to get off track here. Most of you know all this. I'm just sort of recapping and thinking about what it must be like for that guy to be strapped in that damn chair, being questioned by a freaking arrogant NPC piece of shit. Soulless bastard. Gonna sit there and make somebody into a criminal. Oh man, did you guys see that hawk right there that just flew by with a bird in its grasp? Glad it wasn't a squirrel. I would have got out and hollered at it. Interesting that I see that, right as I'm sitting here talking to you about these creatures. They're not human. The ones at the, and I don't even want to say top, because the bottom, the ones at the bottom. But see, in this world, the top is the bottom and the bottom is the top. So in this bottom at the top world, these non-human, soulless NPC creatures have gotten control of every aspect of everybody's life, everybody's daily life. If you turn on the news, you're listening to their mind. If you watch a movie, you're listening to their mind. If you consume anything that is mainstream at all, you're under the influence. And for those of you that still are not wise enough to know that every single news outlet is controlled by them, you're really lazy, for one thing. You're super lazy, because it's not easy to find. It's not hard to find out any of this. There's plenty of videos out there that have already been made that you can... Stranger Than Fiction, go there. Go to that channel. Go to Stranger Than Fiction and watch his newest video. That's one of them. It may not be his newest. I can't remember. Watch the first, handful of videos. They're all pretty good. And you'll see that even the local news, their little spiel, remember when they were trying to act like all the independent news people, whatever, regular folk, regular people that are doing the job of the people that get paid to do a job, get paid to do a lot of money to do a job, which was or supposed to be news. But it's not news, it's propaganda. So they're getting paid shit tons of money to feed everybody else propaganda. And so finally the people said, F this, we'll be the news, we'll become the news, we will do our own damn news. And then these jackasses all come on the local news in every city, every town, every state, and say the same scripted ass thing. Ooh, this independent journalism is a threat to our democracy. And you can hear, and I love it on the video, he's got them all saying the exact damn same thing in unison. So he plays all of them saying the same exact script at the same time, and it's nothing but just a chorus of voices. News anchors, whore media, people that have sold everybody out for their little bit of shekels, whatever shekels they got to sell everybody out, and they're sitting there all saying it at the same time. This is a danger to our democracy. When them jackasses know full well there's no damn democracy. They're not protecting no democracy. They're protecting their bureaucratic, totalitarian, monkey-ass show. And the thing that just gets me every time I think about this and talk about this and realize this, because I'm always asking, how did this happen? How in the hell did this happen? How could this even be possible? How can what we're calling reality be reality? How? Because this is not reality. This is not reality. In other words, we say to ourselves, we are alive and we are living. You really consider this alive? You really consider this living? I want to say to the entire frickin' damn country, you really consider this shit that you're doing living? In other words, they've belittled you and abused you and mind controlled you and beat you down so fucking far and low that you actually think this is living. Shuffling to and from a slave position in order to give the few shekels that you got to the people that own your fucking house, that own everything, own it all. And you're just going to borrow it for a little while, but you're going to spend every waking moment of your quote unquote life that you're living to chase shekels. And then after you've spent all your time and energy and effort and focus getting those few shekels, then you give the shekels basically to the left hand. So the right hand gives you some shekels and you transfer it over to your left hand and then you give it back to them. And you call that life. You say that you're living. You think that you're free and in a democracy. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Which just shows how unconscious everybody has become. You're so unconscious, and I'm not directing this at anybody unless it applies to you. If it applies to you, then it applies to you. You're so unconscious that you are now in a position where you're ready to protect your abuser. You're like one of these women, one of these drunk and pill popping women that can't seem to find a guy that doesn't abuse you in some way. And now you're, 40 or 50, and you've been doing this your whole life with these kind of guys. And you finally have settled. And you say, well, I found a man that, doesn't abuse me physically, just mentally. But that's okay because it's not physical. So in other words, you don't even realize that you're not supposed to be engaged with anything that's abusing you. Nothing. But you've settled and said, well, if he's not smacking my face and putting bruises on my body, then I'll stay with him and say that I love him and say that he loves me. All the while knowing that you're being abused. You're in an abusive relationship. So all of us are in an abusive relationship with this whole damn matrix. The whole matrix is nothing but abuse. Ongoing abuse. And then they keep putting all of this into our consciousness without ceasing. You cannot even get a break from thinking about the matrix anymore. Now you can if you're able to go to the higher states. You can if you know who you really are. But let us say you're just a third density human that is like that woman in my example, where you just, you're happy that you're not getting your face beat in, and you're happy to be abused mentally and emotionally, and you're not gonna confront the abuser. You're not gonna do anything to help yourself. In other words, you're gonna continue to consent. So as long as you're willing to consent, you'll stay right where you're at in the abuse. So isn't it high time that we get out of the abusive relationship? And see all the poor people in America and everywhere else that are in this position, and they're just like that damn woman. They don't know how. They don't know how. They're afraid. They don't know how they're going to make it. They're so used to it. Like, yeah, even if I am being abused, at least there's a warm body laying next to me in bed at night. So that stems from insecurity. This cycle of abuse, man, is insane. It's insane. We start out coming into this realm being abused. You were abused the minute you got here. And you've been abused ongoing since then, every damn day. And this spirit of abuse just bounces around between bodies like a goddamn shape-shifting entity and will just abuse through whoever it can. So first the doctor abused you, perhaps the nurses abused you, perhaps the fucking Frankenstein scalpel cutting genitalia freaks abused you, and then perhaps you got home with your parents and maybe they abused you, and then you got into the education system and those motherfuckers abused you, and then you got into the religious institutions and they abused you, and then you went for mental help and they abused you, and then you tried to talk to somebody about all this shit and they abused you. So you're left with nothing but just yourself, which is a perfect fucking thing to realize. It all comes down to you. All comes down to you. Are you going to break off the relationship? Are you going to stand up for yourself and demand that all abuse ceases and desists immediately? There's a couple things you'd have to know prior to that, I guess. You'd have to know that you were sovereign. You would have to know that you are a co-creator. You would have to know that you have all the power in this realm, even though it seems like that's ludicrous, because you've been abused so much and so long that you can't even entertain that idea. We've been systematically stripped to where we're down to a skeleton. We're like skeletons. It's only by consent. So we allowed it. We allowed it. And I'm not trying to put guilt on us for allowing it. We just did not know better. We did not realize how belittled and beat down we were. We did not realize how abusive this matrix is. This matrix perpetuates abuse. And then the abused become the abusers. The majority of these people abusing little kids were abused themselves. Doesn't justify it, but it's a fact. And it perpetuates the cycle of abuse. And so when you scan the matrix, knowing all this, you realize these people do not love themselves. These people do not know themselves. They have been sold thousands of ideas of who and what they are, and every one of them is a lie. Very rarely did you even come across someone conscious enough, clear enough, with it enough to speak the truth. Because you're not going to get too much truth coming from a wounded, battered, beat up woman in a relationship that she's consenting to because that's how beat down she is. She doesn't even realize she's worth getting away from the abuse. She figures, yeah, I'm going to be abused, but I'm also going to have whatever she thinks she's getting from that relationship. And so she compromises. And she stays locked into that position. And it's the same exact thing with us and this matrix. We're all compromised because in one way or another, we're staying with this relationship. And we're giving life force currency to it. Every time you go to one of their movies, you're contributing. Every time you turn on that news broadcast, you're contributing. Every time you go to an institutionalized religious building to pay homage to your deity, you're contributing. If you go into the field of health and you get some toxins handed to you that's called your cure, you're contributing. Now you know why monks and sages go to secluded places in the middle of the wilderness. Because they divorced their abuser. They returned to Mother. And Mother's got the healing. Mother will speak the truth. Mother will communicate what it is you really need. Father Sky will shine down the light and illuminate your darkness. And you can become purified and renewed and empowered and whole again. Out there by yourself in the wilderness as a monk, for an example. So if you know that you're a co-creator, make sure I'm still on here. Okay, still going. And probably going to stop soon. If you know that you're a co-creator, it's time to co-create and practice the art of fighting without fighting. Okay? We need a comet, an asteroid, a meteor to come from the skies carrying a payload of a, what do they call it? Virus. A virus that takes out NPCs. A virus that wipes out NPCs. Doesn't hurt humans, doesn't hurt the animals, doesn't hurt anything that's natural, that's organic. But it does take out AI. It does take out aliens, if you will. The imposters, the soulless NPCs. It takes them out. Okay, meditate, create people, write the script. It's in your hands. You have the power. And if we're going to practice the art of fighting without fighting, because you can't just go and fight them with your fists, right? They're going to cheat. They'll send 50 people to beat you up and there's just you, but you're going to go try to fight, right? No, we can't fight like that. We are co-creators. We don't even have to fight like that. We have the power. Decree it, speak it, say it, create it, make it so, right? And has anybody thought of this? Has anybody said this? Has anybody considered these ways of cleaning this planet up in unison with Mother Earth and Father Sky? I don't know. I haven't heard of it, but I'm on it now, people. And I have made a video about a comet coming down and whatnot in the past, but I'm revisiting it because that would solve this Earth's problems, right? If a virus showed up here that took out NPCs and soulless creatures, soulless humans, then we wouldn't have to do a thing but just wait until they were all gone. And the place was, that would be the mother of all resets. In other words, instead of a reset where all the people get screwed over and the aliens get to frickin' go forward, well, this time the aliens got took out and the people went forward. I don't even know if I have, if I'm still on the same video. It might have already crossed over. So I'm going to go ahead and stop for now. And love and light and wholeness until next time, my friends.